All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we're focusing on something absolutely fascinating. It's incredibly common, but man, is it widely misunderstood. We're talking about the act of mass digital deletion. We live in this crazy era of digital hoarding, right? Where literally every thought, every photo, every fleeting moment gets logged, saved, and locked away in the cloud forever. But what happens when someone decides to do the exact opposite? Like, what's the actual mindset behind hitting that ultimate delete button and just watching years of digital history vanish into thin air? Well, we're going to unpack the specific psychology behind this radical act of digital minimalism, and honestly, it's probably not at all what you think. So I want you to think about your own digital life for a quick second. Have you ever felt that quiet, kind of creeping urge to just wipe the slate clean? Maybe you're doom scrolling through years of your old posts, or you're staring down thousands of unread emails, or just looking at a timeline of past versions of yourself. And suddenly you feel this overwhelming desire to hit select all, press delete, and just reset the whole shebang. It's actually a super universal feeling. The sheer weight of our digital footprint can feel completely suffocating sometimes. But here's the catch. When we actually see someone else act on this urge, our reaction is almost universally panic. We instantly wonder what went wrong. And that brings us directly to the core source text we're analyzing today, the psychology of people who delete everything. We are really going to dissect this specific mindset because our source material posits a massive paradigm shift in how we view the total erasure of a digital footprint. It totally challenges that immediate knee-jerk narrative that society slaps onto this behavior. We're going to break down exactly what is happening in the brain of someone who systematically erases their digital past. Okay, let's get into section 1, the breakdown assumption. Let's talk about why we panic. Picture this. You go to check on a friend's social media profile, or maybe you search for a colleague's digital history, and suddenly it's just gone. Zero posts, no profile picture, just a completely blank digital wall. Immediately, those alarm bells start ringing in our heads, right? Our pulse quickens a bit. Society has absolutely trained us to view sudden digital absence as a glaring red flag. We instantly fall back on this cultural default of a breakdown, which is a collapse in mental stability or an inability to function normally. See, our modern world equates visibility with stability. It's this idea that if you're okay, you're present and you're posting. So we incorrectly map this breakdown definition onto the act of digital deletion. We just assume that wiping out a digital identity is this destructive act born out of erratic instability, panic, or an inability to cope with normal daily life. Basically, we view the deletion as a symptom of a much larger, darker collapse. But, and this is a big but, our source text challenges this negative assumption head-on. It's not a breakdown. And this brilliantly illustrates the core misconception we're unraveling today. The source argues definitively that wiping the digital slate clean is absolutely not inherently tied to mental collapse. By stripping away this assumption, we're forced to ask a really interesting question. If it isn't a crisis of instability, then what exactly is the psychological driver actually doing the pushing? Let's take a breath here and shift our perspective. Section 2, reframing deletion as growth, the pivot. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast here. If we completely remove that lens of panic and crisis, what are we left with? Instead of viewing the act of deleting everything as a person losing control, we really need to view it through a warm, grounded lens. Over on the left, we have that breakdown assumption, where it's viewed as erratic, frantic escapism, right? Like someone running away from their life. But on the right, we see the reality according to the source material, growth. Growth is highly intentional. It is a deliberate act of moving forward. It's a profound shift from viewing deletion as an ending to viewing it as a beginning. It's not about fleeing from reality at all. It's about actively managing how you step into your future. It's a calculated, focused maneuver. So let's formally define what we mean by growth in this context. It's the process of developing, shedding the past, and maturing psychologically. Think of it less like bulldozing a house and more like, well, like a snake shedding its skin. You simply cannot continue to develop and mature if you're constantly dragging around the heavy, outdated versions of who you used to be. The source argues that deleting digital history is actually an act of psychological evolution. Let's move forward and see how this builds into actionable reality. Because this isn't some chaotic button-smashing spree in the middle of the night. It's a highly intentional, step-by-step mindset. Step 1, recognize digital baggage. That actually requires profound self-awareness, realizing that those old posts and photos are acting as anchors rather than just archives. Step 2, intentionally delete. This is the calculated action. It's the literal, physical manifestation of letting go. And step 3, move forward unburdened. This proves the act is calculated rather than chaotic. The goal isn't to disappear from the world, the goal is to travel light. Let's walk through the reality of this mindset. So the crucial point is that mass deletion is a highly intentional act. It's the careful curation of a current identity, making absolutely sure that the digital representation actually matches the present physical reality. It's a firm refusal to carry past weight. Ultimately, having the courage to just erase the digital archives of who you were yesterday, that's a major sign of psychological evolution today. It is fundamentally healthy. Which brings us to the final part of our explainer, Section 3, your digital clean slate. What weight are you carrying? We've established that the people who delete everything are often operating from a place of maturity and forward momentum. So what about the rest of us? I mean, take a second to evaluate the digital hoarding you might be participating in right now. Are you keeping things online because they actually represent who you are today, or simply because you've just always kept them? This brings us to the absolute minimalist core of our source text. It's growth. Stripping away all the noise, if you take away absolutely anything from this explainer, please let it be this reframing. The erasure of the past is not the destruction of the self, it is the clearing of the path. It's that ultimate psychological realization that you literally do not owe your past a permanent exhibit in your present life. And I'll leave you with this. What part of your past is keeping you from growing? If your digital footprint is acting like a heavy anchor, what would happen if you simply cut the rope? It's a pretty provocative thought, isn't it? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating psychological shift with me, and I really hope this leaves you thinking deeply about the quiet power of hitting delete.